Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
January 30, 2020, the How Bad Can It Get edition. First up, it's getting bad in China as British Airways has suspended China flights as the coronavirus spreads. The cancellation takes effect immediately. This is the first Western airline to cancel all flights to and from mainland China. It's still flying to Hong Kong, but no longer to mainland China. The UK has followed the US in advising against non-essential travel to China, as has the country of New Zealand. If your business is still flying to China, you might want to consider some sort of temporary ban or halt, because if someone goes and gets sick in the face of this, with the U.S. advisories and now with BA canceling flights, it could be difficult for your company going forward. Next up, on the continued travails of Boeing, Peggy Hollinger, writing in the FT Industry op-ed column, takes a look at the travails of Boeing and correctly notes that its travails run deeper than a few bad apples. The new president, or rather CEO, Dave Calhoun, had said on a conference call with industry press that the bulldozing of regulators was really just an unusual group of folks within the company. However, it turns out that, of course, it's much more systemic. She also questioned the potential payment of a dividend from Boeing. She did debate this, but she wondered, with the company bleeding literally $1 billion a month, and there since the 737 MAX ban, they had to borrow another $12 billion in a line of credit. The optics of paying a big dividend are certainly not good. So it's going to be interesting to see what Calhoun's does. His job is to set a very different tone from his predecessor, but it's going to take a lot for Boeing to recover from all of this. Yesterday, we talked about the Britain defying, or rather agreeing to utilize Huawei in its 5G network. And today, the New York Times reports how Britain defied Trump's request. And once again, it points up that if you treat people like dirt, they're likely not to consider you a plausible and reliable ally. So the Trump administration's continued policy of abusing our closest allies is beginning to demonstrate some very negative consequences. And for Britain to do this, probably our closest ally, it really speaks to how poorly the Trump administration is seen literally across the globe, and the damage that they are doing to U.S. foreign policy relations, and it's moving into business relations. So the U.S. military has not accepted the Trump administration's full ban, and now Britain has turned on this as well. And finally, I rarely have pieces that require subscription, but this next one unfortunately does, and it really caught my eye as something very new and unusual. They're the 2 executives from Cognizant Technologies who are fighting individual FCPA criminal enforcement actions are now having to consider the question whether each email where they participated or alleged to have participated in the bribery schemes is a separate FCPA violation. This could significantly ratchet up the pressure on them. This has apparently never been considered by a court, and the federal district court is now having to take a look at this, so we'll watch that. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening.